it's Eric, owner of Farpoint Farms here in the mountains, North Carolina, and today it's time to do another roundup here. I went to the Hillsville flea market in Virginia, Hillsville, Virginia. It's the largest flea market on the East Coast. It happens twice a year, Labor Day and Memorial Day. And man, if you can't find it at Hillsville, it's not out there, is pretty much my motto. I've been going to it now for 3 years, and I've never come home disappointed. This is no exception. I saw probably 30 CB radios. There were 4 or 5 base stations. There was even a Galaxy 2000. I'm sorry, there was even a Cobra 2000, which is super rare, and they were proud of it. But there was a Connex there that was a good price, $99 for a good Connex radio that had been peaked and tuned, and a couple of sideband radios, a couple of really cool things. But you know, I'm on a budget, always have been, always will be, so I focused on radios that I could afford at a good price, or radios that I thought I'd like to play with, or radios that I thought I could come home with, fix, clean up, play with a little bit, and then resell. And I came out with some pretty cool stuff. As you can see here, I've got a little collection. I ended up with, what have we got here? 4, 5, 6, 7 CB radios altogether. The most useless being one that the guy ended up giving me for free. But still kind of an interesting piece here. That's this one. It's called the Beltrek Enduro 23. I was looking at this on the table going, I know it's a radio, but I wasn't sure what it was. It has these mounts on the rear. There's your spot for your antenna. You got an external speaker, and then you got some plugs down here. It's really unusual, but it had this bracket here. Of course, it's missing some pieces, so pretty much useless. But I thought, is this something that hung on a wall and was used maybe in an office or something like that? Turns out this was actually used for a motorcycle. You put this on top of a Harley. You would have straps that held this thing onto a gas tank on a Harley, and you had your volume, your squelch, and your 23 channels that all worked through there. Then these two would hook to a wireless speaker and mic setup. So that's what it was for. Now, he was asking $5. Like I said, he ended up giving it to me for free because he was just trying to get rid of it. But yeah, that's something you probably will never see again. I have no idea if anyone has any interest in this. This is something I probably will sadly just end up throwing away. I don't think it has any value, and without the additional pieces, it has no real use to me. If anyone out there wants it, just leave me an email and I'll be happy to send it to you for the cost of shipping, okay? So that's the Beltrek transceiver. That was probably the most unusual thing. We'll set that aside, and I'll get closer in on some of these other ones, but let's just talk about an overall what I thought was, I got two great radios, 2 radios that I really think are high-dollar radios. The first one being, and I've talked about this in my wireless or my walkie-talkies or handheld video, I have the TRC 217, which is the probably one step down from this. And oddly enough, there was a TRC 217 in the box just like this. But this is the TRC 216, which I think for its time I would consider to be the best walkie-talkie out there. And it's a 40 channel. It's got a nice bar graph LED. It's got a light on the side, power, but on top, and I talked about this again in my walkie-talkie video, this has a place for a full-size 5-pin mic, an external speaker, an external antenna, a charging port, a PowerPoint. So you could use this as a base station, you could use this as a mobile, or you could use this as a walkie-talkie. This is about as much full-featured a walkie-talkie as you could get back then. Now, no weather band, no scan, because it's back in the 80s, but to find one of these things in the original box, and let me go ahead and open it up, in great shape, and I paid $7 for this, so this was an incredible deal. Now, the guy that had the TRC 217, which I already own one of, he wanted $25 and he wasn't coming down, and I felt that's what about it was worth, but I buy those things to resell at this point. This one here I'm not going to be reselling. I'm going to be keeping this. Original owner's manual, really nice. The Citizens Band rules and regulations from the FCC, effective of 1983. Now, that's changed some over the years, but still has this original leather case or pleather case. I don't think that's real. All the little covers to protect it and the high-low switch, all that stuff is still there. Has a hanging strap for your hand. Mic port and speaker port are covered. The antenna's in excellent shape. This thing hardly got any use. Battery compartment wasn't rotted out or had any corrosion in there. Channel selector, squelch, and volume control. And the meter works fine. The digital readout works fine. I'll probably do a video on this one by itself because it's just so darn nice. And really, I feel like this is one of the greatest radios, handheld radios you can get. So that was a really cool one. Let me go ahead and I'll get the camera in closer. We'll look at some of the other ones. Oh, one more thing. I'll show you this before we go in, because this is an interesting. It's broken, but it was attached to one of the radios I picked up, and again, it was free. This is a gutter mount, like a mobile gutter mount setup here, and it's got a spring here. You see that? So you would clip that onto your gutter mount, and you could have a CB antenna if you were just going to go on a trip or something like that. I found this interesting because I actually had something similar to this when I was younger. Matter of fact, my first mobile CB antenna was not too dissimilar. Instead of having the big spring clamp here, it had 2 set screws, but it was a gutter mount CB. These are only, usually you'll have like a 2-foot antenna. This one's broken off. It's pretty much useless, but I just thought it was something interesting to show, part of history. So let me get the camera closer and we'll look at the rest of this stuff. All right, so what we got here, some of the stuff may look like it's valuable, some of the stuff may not look like it's valuable, but to me, all this stuff has got some value to it. We'll start off with this. This was laying on a table. It had no real price on it. It had a Walmart sticker, but it was just numbers and codes. So I asked the guy what he wanted for it. He was asking $5. I ended up buying it for $1. What is this? This is a GE emergency radio. Again, I've done videos on emergency help radios. This one is a 40 channel, and it does have a digital readout. It does have a transmit light and some other stuff. So it's a nicer one. But what you could use this for, and what I'm going to use this for, it's got a DX and local, which is kind of nice, and push to talk. So on the bottom here, you have your 12 volt and you have your antenna out. But what's nice about this is right there, there's a hook. So I can hang this thing on the wall and it becomes a base station. That's simple. So, when you're out there looking for CB radios, you want to get in the hobby cheap, don't overlook something like this. You think it's useless, you think it's garbage, but it powers up and it works. So I can use that as a very inexpensive base station. So if you're looking to get in the hobby cheap, I'm going to clean that off. That's just tape. There's no bad scratches. But obviously it got some use. So somebody out there was using this thing quite a bit. Got a little microphone here. This is just a maybe more of a computer mic, but good price on that. I think I paid 50 cents. All right, so the weirdest thing, this is a Uniden 510XL. Now what was funny about this is this one's very dirty. It was used in a dump truck. You can see the dust in there. Me and the owner of this talked about, look at how dirty that is there. It does work, but let's see, this one was made in the Philippines, so it's one of the older models. But what was interesting about this was that I must have seen 20, no, I'll say 10 Uniden 510s. So they must have been quite popular in that area of the country. I've probably only ever seen maybe 1 or 2 of these outside of that, but it's a good radio. It's high quality. It's very heavy duty, and a lot of truckers use these, especially dump truck drivers. Long haul drivers probably not so much, but they opted for larger radios and more feature. But this is kind of the equivalent of a Cobra 19 or a Uniden or a Midland 1000, maybe a slightly higher quality. It does have an LED bar graph, TX, and the channel indicator. It does have a noise blanker, which is nice as well. So that one, I don't remember what I paid. I think it was $5 for that, which wasn't a bad deal. Then we come to this one. Well, this is old school, but this is kind of a nice one. This is a realistic TRC 413. And again, I'll probably make a video on this one because this was actually one of the nicer radios that Radio Shack offered in that time zone. Volume, squelch, noise blanker, A&L, CB and PA. It does have a green power light. It does have a signal meter. It does have a modulation meter when you key down. And it is a 40-channel digital readout. I have not tested this one yet. It is dirty. It's pretty rough looking. But did come with the mic. And I don't know if it has a date on it. No date. But it does have PA, external speaker, antenna, all the things you would look for. And again, that one was $5. So came with a nice mic. The mic again is quite dirty. A lot of these things sit in people's garages for a long time. Don't discount a radio because it's dirty, because you'll be missing out. A lot of times these things are just that. They're just dirty. They've been sitting in a garage or an attic for so long they've collected dust. But an afternoon of cleaning and you're back on the air with that. So that's a great radio for someone with, say, a Jeep or something like that, wants to get a CB in the car. And I'm going to play with that. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that, but it's certainly that was a good model. And this was the cream of the crop of the day, price-wise. Like I said, there was a Connex, there was a Cobra 2000, there was 2 Midland base stations that I saw. One was a 23 channel, one was a 40. No sideband one except for the Cobra. But yeah, and there were a bunch of other ones. A lot of Cobra 29s, but a lot of those were going for basically what asking price is in the world. But this one was a great deal. Uniden PC78XL. This is one step down from the Uniden Grant, which I've owned for many years. This has all the features of the Grant minus the sideband. So this would be the equivalent of like a Cobra 29. And it's a great radio. A lot of guys, a lot of truck drivers use this radio if they didn't get the Cobra 29. And for good reasons. It's got all the functions you want. RF gain, mic gain, squelch, volume, delta tune, which is, to pull in off frequency channels. SWR does have a calibrator. It's 40 channel. Dynamic squelch control, 919. Dim and bright, CBPA. Noise blanker, the works. Got a nice meter on there. And it came with the original Bearcat mic. So that was an awesome deal. I got that with this radio right below it, another older Radio Shack, and I paid $10 for the pair. So that right there that's probably the score of the day. And it's in good shape. It was actually quite clean, powered up, worked fine. Did not come with a power cord, but that's okay. I plugged it into the other one and it worked fine. So even had the little mic holder on the side. Good deal, right? So if you're trying to get into the hobby cheap, you just need to be going out to these flea markets and digging around. Lastly, we have this little girl. This realistic TRC 424. Now this is an older radio. It is a 40 channel, but it's probably one of the first 40s to come out of the Radio Shack line. No date on it, but made in Japan, so you know it's an older one. Got its own custom plug here. I'll have to cut that off. Now I haven't tested this one, but it does have a PA and external speaker like we want on all of these. Let's see if it's got a date on there. Nope, no date. So, but it's got the features you're looking for. So even an old radio like this, which I basically got for free, that's obviously worth about $25 for that unit, and I got the pair of them for $10. So we'll call this one free. And I might keep it or I might send it down the road. Probably get $10 for this on eBay. But anyway, it's got the functions you want: PA, noise blanker. You got delta tune for those off frequency channels, RF gain, squelch, and volume. And it did come with the mic. It's not an original mic. I'm not sure who made that. It doesn't seem to have a name brand on it. It used to, but it seems to have fallen off. But it's that 5-pin DIN. And yeah, it's got the old school wood grain. So it definitely dates itself as right around the beginning of the 40 channel area. So that's it, man. That's a pretty good haul from the Hillsville Flea Market, the largest flea market on the East Coast. It's in Hillsville, Virginia. If you've never been there and you're within, say, a 3 or 4 hour drive, I highly recommend it. But I'll tell you something else. I highly recommend you leave very early in the morning and get there right about 7:15, 7:30. The flea market opens at 8 o'clock, but you want to be there early because you'll have to park so far away if you don't get there that early. And I've got some pictures of it, really short pictures of it. I'll play here. Hey guys, it's Eric, owner of Farpoint Farms here at Hillsville, the largest flea market on the East Coast. The problem is the camera. Every time I've gone to Hillsville, I've tried to make a video live on the spot, but the camera never wants to cooperate. And I don't know if there's magnetic ore in the ground or I don't know what it is, but it never seems to cooperate. It always cuts off. So here's a few short clips, and I will let those roll as I say goodbye. This is Eric, owner of Farpoint Farms. We'll be, of course, doing some reviews of these radios as I get them cleaned up, just like I do with the base stations on the other score that I got recently. And until then, I'll see you next time. Take care.
Something that needs a little fixing on Farpoint Farms. Freedom is mighty sweet. Liberty sows its seed at Farpoint.